Equations of linear relationships. Graph linear equations using tables. An equation such as y equals x is called a linear equation. A linear equation is an equation whose graph is a line. You can graph a linear equation by making a table of ordered pairs. Write the following definitions in your journal. Function, a relationship or expression involving one or more variables. Independent variable, the variable in a function with the value that is subject to choice, x value. Dependent variable, the variable in a relation with the value that depends on the value of the independent variable, the y value. Look at the following pictures and information. Please take note of the starred information. Those pieces of information need to be placed in your journal. Looking at the first star, independent. We're talking regarding the independent variable, the x value, or the domain. You will hear all of these words used. Dependent variable, or dependent, y value, and range, which all relate to your x values. Looking at the upper left-hand corner, we've got the y-axis, which is written in red, and it says also known as the dependent or the effect. The purple one is the x-axis, or known as the independent axis or the cause. Right-hand corner, we've got independent variable, so you're going to input information in for the dependent variable. The influence changes the dependent variable. Let's look at this example. Graph, y equals 2x plus 1. Select any four values for the independent variable x. We chose 2, 1, 0, and -1. Substitute these values for x to determine the dependent variable. We will be using those exact numbers on our homework sheets. So we're going to continue to use -1, 0, 1, and 2. So everybody is consistent. So the first thing you would do is you would look at your table. It would be blank, and you'd go and input the information what they state. So look at your equation, y equals 2x plus 1. We're trying to find out what the value of y is. So we're going to take our 2x plus 1, and we're going to input values for the x. In this case, like they said earlier, we're going to use -1, 0, 1, and 2. So look at your second column. You can see where they've inputted those values. Your third column is your answer of what the second column equals, -1, 1, 3, and 5. Your fourth column is your ordered pair. So we have -1, -1, 0, 1, 1, 3, 2, 5. Then you would go over and you would plot your points on your graph if they ask you to on your assignment. So you plot your points, and from there you should see that it's linear. If your point is not in the right spot, you will notice it because your line will not be straight. So you can see that you have a mistake in your table somewhere. So the ordered pairs x, y are -1, -1, 0, 1, 1, 3, and 2, 5. By graphing these ordered pairs, you can create the graph of y equals 2x plus 1. We are now going to do this together. We have y equals x minus 3. So, using our values, we're going to have -1, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Inputting those, we have x is -1 minus 3. -1 minus 3 gives us a y value of -4. Our ordered pair is going to be a -1, -4. Next one, inputting our information, 0 minus 3. 0 minus 3 gives us a -3. Ordered pair is going to be 0, -3. So we have 1 minus 3. 1 minus 3 is -2. Our ordered pair is 1, -2. Input in our 2. 2 minus 3 gives us -1. Ordered pair is going to be 2, -1. So from here, we can go ahead and plot our points. So our first ordered pair is going to be -1, -4. Our next ordered pair is going to be 0, -3. Next one, 1, -2. And our last is 2, -1. If I connect my dots, you can see that my line is a straight line. We have, in this example, y equals -3x. I'm going to go ahead and do the first line, and I would like for you guys to go ahead and solve the rest of the table and then solve the graph. So starting off with the first one, we're using our same x values we talked about before, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Inputting it for our first one, we have -3 times a -1. -3 times -1 gives me a +3. A negative times a negative is positive. So my ordered pair is going to be a -1, 3. All right, pause the video, finish working it out, plot your points. The graph doesn't have to be perfectly drawn, but just to get the idea, and then come back and I will show you the rest of it, and you can check your work. All right, we're going to input our 0. We have -3 times 0. That gives us 0. Our ordered pair is going to be 0, 0. Next one, we have -3 times 1, and that gives us -3. Ordered pairs are going to be 1, -3. -3 times 2 is -6. Ordered pair is going to be 2, -6. So we can go through and plot our points. We have -1, 3. Ordered pair of 0, 0. We have 1, -3. And now we have 2, 6, which will be way down here. If we connect our line is a straight line. So we see that we've done our values correctly. All right, we have a word problem here. An outdoor adventure company charges $9 per hour for a mountain bike plus a $5 fee for a helmet. The equation C equals 9H plus 5 describes the total cost C for H hours to rent a bike. Represent this linear equation with a graph. So they've done it here. They've actually given us the equation there. So what you would do is we would select our H values. Now earlier I told you that I wanted you to use -1, 0, 1, and 2 for your homework. But in this situation, can I have a negative hour? No. So you've got to be careful on word problems. You can't use -1 if it's not going to work. So I can't have a negative hour. So I would want to start with the value of 1. So in this case, we used 1, 2, 3, and 4. So inputting into my equation, you can see that my C values come out to be 14, 23, 32, and 41, and I have my ordered pair. Graph my ordered pair, and I'm drawing a line connecting my points, and you can see that I have a linear equation for this graph. So if I wanted to say that I'm renting my bike, or the bike, for 5 hours, not in our table, I can look at my graph and see that it's going to cost me $50, because my point would be right there. Let's try this equation. Malik's family decided to order a premium cable that cost $34 per month. The company charges a one-time installation fee of $75. The equation y equals 34x plus 75 describes the total cost y for x months. Represent this equation with a graph. All right, so let's look at this. Going back, can I go and have negative months? I can't. So let's go ahead and use 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in our x values, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looking at the table, I have already filled in my values. I've got input my x value into my equation. So the first one, I have 34 times 1 plus 75. That's going to give me a y value of 109 and an ordered pair of 1, 109. The second one, 34 times 2 plus 75 gives me a y value of 143. So my ordered pair is 2, 143. Third, I have 34 times 3 plus 75, and that gives me a value of 177. Four months, 34 times 4 plus 75 gives me a value of 211. So I have 4 months at $211 that it has cost us. All right, so plotting our graph. They didn't give us any numbers, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip every other line and number them so I have enough room to kind of show my graph. The other side, I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go up by 25s. And I'm just going to go ahead and start at 100. Kind of condense it there. All right, so plotting my points. So I'm going to go 1, 109, so I'll go a little bit above. It's not going to be perfect. 2, 143, so I'll be close to the 150. 3, 177. 4, 211. You can see that my line is a linear line. It goes straight. Try this problem. Graph each linear equation. Y equals x minus 5. I want to remind you that if the table doesn't break into steps like it does, you still do the same process. You need to write on your piece of paper to the side or something like that, you can, or write it, next to it or on the table or something like that. So try this problem, we'll come back and we'll see how you did. Okay, here we go. If we input -1 in for x, so we're going to have -1 minus 5, that gives us -6. 0, so 0 minus 5 is -5. Using 1, 1 minus 5 is -4. Using 2, 2 minus 5 is -3. I've gone ahead and plotted my points on my graph. You can see that I create a straight line, and we're doing good with this. Try this problem. Y equals 4x plus 1. We're going to use the values of -1, 0, 1, and 2. Solve this problem, and then when we come back, we'll look and see how you did. Using the -1x value, inputting it into our equation, we have 4 times -1 plus 1, which equals -3. 4 times 0 plus 1 is 1. 4 times 1 plus 1 is 5. 4 times 2 plus 1 is 9. So let's plot our points. Please note on the x and y axes that your numbers go in increments of 2 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. So be careful plotting your numbers. So the first one I have -1, -3, 0, 1. I am going 1, 5, 2, 9. Connecting my points, you can see I have a straight line.